Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. We're going to do something slightly differently as we try and unravel what is going on with the world of council tax and what is lawful, what is legal, as we often do. Now, my guest today doesn't want to have his face on the screen, a little bit of anonymity here, because what he is diving deep into could put him at risk, and we certainly don't want to do that. I don't want to be personally liable for my guest's risk. He's going to be known today as the last blue ball of England, so I'm going to call him Blue, if that's all right. Hello, Blue.
Hello there, Richard.
Well, it's very lovely to have you on the show. As we say, unfortunately, people are going to be lumbered with looking at me and a whole load of documents that we're going to array on the screen. So that they can take us, so they help us understand exactly what is going on. So, Blue, could you outline for me where we're going with today's conversation?
We're going back to basics. It's going to be very simple. People have lost their way and their understanding of the law and what the difference between legal and lawful is, and how that works for us, and if we believe the people in power, how it works against us. Now, people have forgotten the Constitution because we have been ignorant in ourselves and in our approach to the law. The powers that be have subverted the constitution of law, which is a very serious criminal act. This includes the government, the council, the police, and the courts. Now, they are all under an affirmation, which is a criminal act, because that is the criminal act of subverting or altering the constitution of law.
Where does the Constitution come from? You mentioned that. Because a lot of people say to me, well, it's not written down in the way that the Americans have it written down.
Now, that's total nonsense. And people that say that are ignorant, and this is what I mean by lazy and ignorant of the law. The Constitution has 54 volumes of law. Now, everybody's heard of the Magna Carta. Everybody calls it the Magna Carta. It's spelt different. It's spelt with an A on the end, not an ER, because it's the Great Liberty Charter of England. Now, that's where the confusion goes. Now, everybody says, oh, no, it's too old, it's too whatever. Now, I'm going to dispute that with fact. 1215 was the first Magna Carta. It has been changed several times along its history, and they're always for the betterment of the people. Now, that's the key phrase there, for the betterment of the people. It was enshrined into the Constitution of Law some 579 years after its conception in 1215. But yet, 200 and a few years later, they're saying it is irrelevant. Now, what did the great late Betty Boothroyd do for us when she was Speaker at the House in 2002?
I don't know.
She declared in open Parliament for the public to understand and hear that the highest law in this land is the Constitution. It cannot be repealed. It cannot be dissolved. No government has the authority. No minister has the authority to say, not even the king has the authority to say, we are going to disregard any part of the Constitution. It is the highest law in the land. It cannot be disputed. It cannot be repealed. It cannot be dissolved by anybody other than the nation, which is the people. And this is where people have forgotten who and what we are. And from the Constitution, it states that the sovereign, the people, delegate those judicial and legislative powers to others for the benefit of the community. They cannot be repealed or taken from the people, as the people reserve those rights. Now, everybody thinking here, hang on a minute, what's he talking? Now, don't forget, this was confirmed in the year 1794, on the 14th day of April, by the citizens in the chair. Now, again, they've inverted, perverted, and subverted our language. Now, a citizen means a completely different thing today as it did 200 and some years ago. A citizen then was a citizen of the realm of England and Great Britain and Isles. It was not of a corporation. Now, what they've done is they've slowly convinced us that the United Kingdom means the same thing. Well, it doesn't. The United Kingdom is nothing more than a corporation. So they've now turned us into persons. Now, we all understand what a person is. It's not what we are led to believe again, because again, in the same document, it states that the persons will conduct the business of state only for the betterment of the people. Now, I don't feel any betterment, do you, Richard? And I'm sure your guests don't feel any betterment.
Certainly not.
They're shoving taxes and legislation down our throat and telling us it is law. Well, it's not. They're trying to say that legislation, because they've taken some of the Constitution and now try to add it into legislation. Well, unfortunately, you can't, because legislation is only for the person, which is the people that run the business of the state only. They can't make laws. They can't. It's impossible. Because they're a fictitious entity. Now, I know everybody laughs at this, but the way to describe this is very simple. At 8:55, I am a citizen of the realm. At 9 o'clock, when I clock in to my government employment, I become a person of the state, which is a fictitious entity, a business, a corporation. And it's easy to find. There are there's three actually: United Kingdom Limited. There's also United Kingdom Corporation, or registered to the Foreign Corporation of the United States under its registration to Duns. Now, Duns and Bradstreet is very similar to Companies House, but it's run from the United States. And once we get that, that now gives us our true understanding. Because what they're trying to claim is that we are two entities joined together. We are the legal fiction, and we all know about the straw man. You've done absolutely marvelous describing the straw man and how it conducts. It's like a succubus that attaches itself to us and literally wants to bleed us dry. So we separate ourselves from the succubus. Carry your birth certificate. I am only the executor, the beneficiary, the benefactor of the birth certificate trust. I am not the straw man, because the straw man, for all intents and purposes, as described, and you've done a brilliant thing again with the Duns and Pellins 1795, and you've the government, the corporation, the man, the difference between us. Therefore,
I've got that here.
Yeah, so you've got that up on the screen now. And it clearly states the difference between the man and the corporation, the artificial person. Because when you're working for the corporation, that is what you become. You become an artificial purpose working for the government or a corporation for the benefit of that corporation. There can be no contract between a man and the corporation. How did they get round this nonsense? They created you a corporation by using your birth certificate. we all become nothing more than a set of numbers. Nothing more. Your birth certificate has a number. Your live birth certificate has a number. What's the next number you get? Your national insurance number.
Yeah, that's right.
Your driving license, your passport.
We're all numbers.
We're just bloody numbers in the corporate game.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to realise. It all comes back to the trust. So what they do, before we had courts of law, under the Constitution, it says quite clearly that a fair trial must be given with a jury of our equals or peers. And it must come from our own community, because they know us best. So they've altered and subverted the Constitution, which is the criminal act of treason against the nation. That's treason against me and you. All courts now, I walked into a high court near me with 4 friends only 3 days ago. And I spoke to their manager, who was in the court on a repossession. And she was there as the bailiff manager. Now, I informed her that none of the warrants are signed. No, they don't need to be. They're stamped. Excuse me. Now, this is a county court in a high court building that's now disputing its legitimacy. Now, if you go into any of these courts, and I recommend people go in and have a look, they all claim they are administrative courts. Now, if they're an administrative court, what does that mean to us? It means that they cannot function without our consent, because they are Alsby's law is very clear, 2011 clearly states that an administrative court has no jurisdiction. It is an administrative court only. Therefore, it cannot issue orders. It cannot issue warrants. It cannot issue orders. It can do nothing, because it only resides in the administration realm. And this is the con. They're not taking you to court, because, again, they're bringing in your legal fiction, which is your all caps uppercase lettering name, which makes you a person of the state. And it's that simple. There's no mass trickery on it. Everybody's looking for this wonderful magic spell of how did we get here? Well, we got here because we're fat, we're lazy, and we are ignorant. We are ignorant of the true law. We are ignorant of their true standing, because they hide it, but tell us. All councils now are incorporated. Many of them are now registered with 60, 70 different corporation numbers and registered to a foreign state. Thank you, Richard. This is just a list of 357 councils nationwide that have become incorporated to a foreign state.
And as you say, I mean, they're all of them. We can all find our county council
on
them.
Everyone is incorporated. Now, they have incorporated every building, every blade of grass that we own, our council houses, are now incorporated, because they are to be sold.
And just going through the whole list, so people get they may see their own one flash up on the screen.
Now, I'm going to ask a very simple question. What is the main ideology of a corporation?
Well, in my book, a corporation is there to make a profit, make money.
Correct. So, if all our councils are incorporated, they then have shareholders.
Yes.
So that now brings into question a lawful question, which is, how can the council be incorporated? Because we are the creditors of that council. We're not the debtors. We are the creditors because we own everything. We, the people, own everything throughout the nation. We own our buildings. We own the swimming pools. We own well, when we had swimming pools, the libraries, the municipal buildings, everything we own. We own the football pitches that belongs to the council, doesn't belong to the council. It is there for them to use in perpetuity for all time, as to the Coronation Oath Act, which the Queen and King must state. Because that would be extortion and treason against the nation if they don't state their oath as to the constitution of law. There's no wriggle room in this. The Constitution is the highest form of law. No man, no king, no anybody stands above the law in this realm. But now we've become incorporated. They've got rid of our Constitution. They even have a United Kingdom private corporation, which is registered on the London Stock Exchange. How deep does this go? We ask ourselves.
Yes.
It becomes ridiculously mind-blowing. And let's get back to the fundamentals. So we'll stop going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, because everything I've said, I've shown you the Duns numbers. I've literally just shown you. I can send you across today if you wish, Richard, the incorporation of the United Kingdom.
Yes.
On Companies House and registered to the foreign state of the United States, Duns and Bradstreets.
I'm just showing there the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association also registered on Companies House.
Yeah, and there it is. There's the company. If you don't believe me, get off your lazy butts and have a look. So now all the judges are incorporated. Now, surely that's a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
So every solicitor, every barrister is what, and are known as what? Officers of the court.
Yes.
So if they're officers of the court, is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, you would think so.
Of course it is. Because how can they serve two masters? You're paying them to do a job and a duty for you. But in actual fact, because you've now signed a contract as a person, you lose all your rights. And there you go. There's another magistrate's court that's registered. Is that the magistrate? Yeah, that's the magistrate. You've got the county court of the same borough, Birmingham County Court. I've just sent you that. I've got them all. We've got majority of these incorporated corporation council
There we go. There's
businesses.
The county one.
Standard business. It says it declares what it is in its title as a standard business identification. And you can see where they're registered. I haven't made this up. I've just looked it up.
Which I think for some people, I mean, they may have understood that the councils were incorporated. I think for some people that may be a surprise that the courts, which are supposed to be the bastions of fairness and working out fair play and all of that, judging, and we see the balance, don't we, of supposedly of courts, and suddenly now we realise that actually the balance has gone very much one way and not in our favour, because they've been incorporated, which means they must be running for profit only.
And shareholders.
And shareholders.
Yeah, so basically, how do you know you've got into an administrative court or what we call a pseudo court, a fake court, right, that's acting in criminality by the colour of law and by the act of uttering in and under common law criminal act, which is high treason. And I'll tell you the reason what we can do and how you can spot them. Where is the claimant? Where is the jury?
Yes.
The law is very clear. No man can be issued a forfeiture or fine without the due process of law by jury. Now, by these courts being in existence, that is extortion. That is a conflict of interest. And it's there. People don't think that's real. Well, it is, unfortunately, for them. It also comes under the Larceny Act, Perjury Act, also comes under the Theft Act, which comes in with the larceny. Now, we've just seen there, and that is common law. Now, that's the one that they're all terrified of. Because people don't realise that you can arrest a police officer, you can arrest a judge. And it's under Section 24A of the Police and Crimes Act. If you witness a crime, you are then duty-bound and honour-bound to arrest.
And let me just interrupt there. Rob the Rat Catcher has been attempting to arrest two judges.
Yep.
He's just come back from serving 3 months in prison, which wrongfully arrested. And I believe that he is in, as we record this, I believe he had been summoned for another attempt. But if he hasn't been imprisoned a second time, he's coming back on the show, I think, on Monday to talk about exactly what he has done and how he has suffered unfairly, trying to do exactly as you're saying.
Yes, but the point we've got to make on all this is might over right.
Yes.
They've got bigger numbers than we have.
Therefore, got the sticks.
It sticks. But you're saying the rat catcher's just been sent to prison. Now, what he needs to do...
come out, yeah.
Yeah, it'll just come out and he's going again. So now he needs to ask the judge for his oath and bond. He also needs to say, I do not consent, because without your consent, no court can continue. If they ask them to say, I am Mr. No, I'm not. I am first name Rat. That's it. I am the man from nature, the sovereign. You now are in dishonour. You have now brought the office of a judicial authority into dishonour. You are now under arrest. You don't arrest them, you report it, because there is no point. Because all that happens is they give you 3 months, right, for arresting a magistrate that's not under oath, that is not lawful, not legal, because he can't be. Because every judge is created from the 1868 Oath Act. No judge in this land can be categorised as a judge under the law unless he is under oath.
Right.
And they're not. When we've got that documented, right, from HMCTS. Now, again, we've just shown you that the courts are incorporated. What the good thing that you do, and I'm just looking forward to send you this now, which is massive case law in the King's Bench. Now, as you and most people will know, the King's Bench is one of the highest courts in the land. Now, the King's Bench ruling on the 16th of December 2022 stated very clearly, no warrant can be issued without a wet ink signature. No order can be issued without the judge seeing it, signing it. Now, this we would think would be normal case, yes?
Absolutely.
Because it has to be lawful. So why then is no warrant signed, ever? No repossession order, no liability order, nothing is signed. Now, that's a criminal act because it's signed for redress. Because if the judge gets it wrong, there must be accountability. Now, if you look at your
I'm just
thing, Richard, now that's the case for people to look up.
It'll come on the
It
screen
is
in a second.
Justice Manning's ruling, King's Bench, London, unsigned warrants illegal. Now, there was a YouTube video on this, and this is where it stemmed from. And, this was done 2 years ago. Now, every court, every magistrate and county court is ignoring this higher court's ruling. Now, that in itself is a criminal act because it's under the 1980 Supreme Court ruling of diminishing the law outside of the courts and the judge rulings and the senior judge rulings. So if any of these warrants aren't signed, what have we got?
Well, you've got illegal activity going on
by an incorporated court with a judge that's not a judge. So if the judge is not a judge, he's under an affestation, which is a oath to a corporation acting outside of the law of the realm, issuing fraudulent documents. And this is where we come on, Richard, to that Shannery Jones document.
Yep, let me just grab that. Bear with me. I was just looking up that number to see if I could show a little bit more from there's an FOI that comes back. Let me just see if I can just quickly separate that and bring it on the screen here, just to show that you were mentioning. I just looked that up. Here we go. Just as you said, 16th of December 2002, King's Bench, there's the reference, judge rules. Any unsigned warrants are illegal, period.
Correct.
This applies to all warrants, including, but not limited to, warrants from third-party interlopers, energy brokers, blah, 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 blah.
Bailiffs,
any warrants.
Bailiffs, exactly. Enforcement agents.
So there we go. That in itself is going to put a lot of people's mind at rest when they've got people coming to the door saying, we have a wet ink or we have a warrant and here it is on our tablet or on our phone. And you look and you go, well, that's not a wet ink signature. That could be done in Photoshop.
It has to be a wet ink signature in paper. And it has to be served to you, the man, not the corporate slave.
Right.
So therefore, it states period. So all repossession warrants are illegal. All liability orders are illegal. Arrest warrants are illegal.
That is such a huge revelation. And it's there in black and white and people can find it, and it's only our ignorance from not knowing it. But now we do. You can now
arrest the police. You can arrest the judges under the law because it's period. You cannot issue any warrant whatsoever without a wet ink signature. And here we go. And here's the proof of what we're saying. Now, this letter, and I thank you for this, Richard, you and Mr. Barnes, wonderful, wonderful gentleman to bring this to the nation. This killed any enforcement of council tax if used correctly. It killed it dead.
Yeah.
Now, as we can see, liability orders, Now, this clearly shows that the HMCTS are now on the ropes. There's the questions we asked, or Mr. Barnes did. with the help of your good self. Here it states, employees were told in March 2023 that they could no longer use liability orders as they were removed in 2003. So for 21 years, every council has now been using illegal liability orders as they were removed from law and have no more legal standing than a sign saying keep off the grass. Every bailiff, every enforcement officer that turns up to your house demanding money with threat is there in the criminal act of extortion, in the criminal act of uttering, because knowingly and willfully trying to force something down your throat, knowing it is not true, it has no legal standing, it was not signed, cannot be signed, and there it is. And they are persons working for a corporation in the criminal act and willful knowingly to defraud, knowingly sell, purchase. It is there in black and white. It cannot be disputed, cannot be changed because it is common law. What is common law? The highest law in the land. It is in the realm of England, not in the United Kingdom corporation. And here we go. So it is now declaring it is a surplusage document. But we also know that the courts don't produce that document anymore. It is produced by the council. And the council now produce this liability order. They then send it to the legal team within the HMCT courts, who then allow this in the criminal act of connivance with the criminal council, and look up, again, stop being lazy, look up connivance. It is a serious criminal act. It's disgusting on how far we have been led down a torturous alleyway here. We are being, and the laughing thing that I sort of lightheartedly say is, can you remember the program Hustle that was on TV?
I remember it being on. I never watched it because I don't think I had a television now. I think I got rid of my television by then.
Well, it was one of those silly programs where it's a bunch of con men, and the opening cast was the Mark walked on, and all of a sudden he was tied up like a puppet, and he was shaken until everything came out of his pockets.
Yeah.
His watch, his gold rings, his money, everything was taken from him. And it just reminds me of that. We are being taken for the biggest lie, the biggest untruth, because of our own ignorance of the law. Now, we never use legislation to defend us, because as soon as we enter their realm, that is a contract. Now, they contract very different to me and you. So if I had a contract with you, there would be two contracts. We would meet in an office. We had a meeting of minds and agreed the basis of that contract. You would sign it and flip your contract to me. I would sign it, flip that contract to you. You would date yours, I would date mine, and we swap again. Therefore, the contract is now lawful. Where's the council contract for the council for the
council tax?
For the council tax, there isn't any.
No.
It is no more than a notice of intent that they are now trying to deceive you. Let the fool be deceived who will be deceived. Well, we've all been deceived. So anything that is founded in fraud is what? It's nullified immediately. Therefore, any payment that we've made to the council must now be returned. As to Lord Denning, quite clear, Case Law 1956, Lazarus v. Beasley. If the courts are careful not to find fraud, but if fraud is stated from the outset and fraud is found, fraud unravels everything, every contract, vitiates the lot. And what have we just caught the council in? Fraud.
A lot of it.
Buckets of it. I mean, I honestly believe that they believe that we are all mushrooms. Keep us in the dark and feed us the
yes,
the dung.
Yeah, the dun's dung.
The dung's done. I like that, Richard. I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to pinch that off you.
Yeah, you have it.
But that's how simple this game is. And it is a game.
Yes.
So we've now just caught the courts in connivance. We've caught the judges in connivance. We've caught them all in fraud, deception, uttering, treason. And we haven't even issued half of this yet. Because if we go to the other document that we've got, which is the double speak of the, again, Ministry of Justice, which basically says, and there it is, what you see can't lie, you can look up the receipt and everything else. And I'm sure, Richard, you can see this better than I can, Richard.
Yeah.
And the double Dutch in it.
So the Freedom of Information Act gives individuals and organisations the right to access all types of information. Your question, however, is not asking for record information but advice on the law. I have therefore assessed that your request does not fall within the Act. Outside the Act, as general correspondence, I can answer your question. Council tax liabilities made by magistrates are made under the authority of the magistrates, not under the authority of HMCTS. The hearing is also under the authority of the magistrates, not the HMCTS. HMCTS is responsible for providing court buildings, but it is not responsible for the judicial hearings or decisions made in them. Those are the sole responsibility of the judiciary. What is HMCS? Are they just the buildings regs? Or, are they just renting out buildings now?
So now we've got two things. We've got the judges that are all now incorporated on Companies House, as we've just demonstrated.
Yeah.
We've also now got the HMCTS saying that they now rent out our court buildings, the people's court buildings, to an incorporated corporation with a incorporated magistrate that now is in serious trouble because he can't be. Before entering court, that judge has now just committed premeditated fraud, and under the 1868 Oath Act, because he's not under the oath, has committed perjury under the Perjury Act 1911, Section 5 and 13. He's also engaged in the criminal act of connivance and engaged in the criminal act of uttering and subverting the Constitution. So we've got all those criminal acts. We've now got treason and high treason for the magistrates. And if the HMCT courts and tribunal citizens are no longer in charge of the judges, then who is?
The Private Bar Guild, clearly.
Because it clearly states that they are working for the Justice Minister. So if the Justice Minister has not got the authority over the judges, would it surprise you to note that all the bar temples are incorporated? And I've got their incorporated details as well.
Nothing surprises me now.
So we've now got a judiciary that's a company. We've got HMCTS, which is a company. And now trying to say it's not responsible for what goes off in the courts, in our public buildings. So therefore, is aiding and abetting in connivance, aiding and abetting in the colour of law, aiding and abetting in the criminal act of uttering, aiding and abetting in subverting the constitution of law. Hello? So where are we now? So we've now got the council in fraud, deception, in criminality,
Pretending to be a court.
pretending now to be a court pretending to be a something, which I'm not quite sure. And this is how you prove the criminality of it. The fake court stamp is the black post office stamp. You can rent that. You can buy that stamp for, I think it's £330 a year from the corporation trading as the Crown Corporation for the King.
Right.
And they rent that stamp for £330 a year. The official lawful under the Constitution stamp, where we have a jury, and we men and women of the realm, we must have the red seal that's embossed, that has the sovereign authority of the people. Because they only get their authority from our delegated powers, and that's in the Constitution of law. If they try and alter or subvert that, it is treason. What are they all doing?
Subverting it.
Again, and we think, oh no, this can't have happened before. Again, Richard, I sent you the Municipal Incorporations Act of 1835, some time ago, where the governments and the councils and everybody else became tyrannical. So the people rose up en masse and said, no, we do no longer consent. We remove our consent. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute, and I really am not, and I want to emphasize this. The riots, the whatever, were stupid. Okay? We now just need to say no. We remove our consent. End of. Keir Starmer is a public civil servant. He's now acting as a tyrannical dictator, in my humble opinion. And I think we can all see this in the fact that there's no jury. He has just literally got these people that have rioted for a reason, and he has jailed them. There was no jury, no judiciary, and they're in prison. Now, I don't know how that works in law. And I think a lot of people watching your show will wonder why and how this has happened. Because all courts now are administrative. And they need your consent. If you do not consent to them, they have no lawful or legal standing. You had a very good gentleman on a few weeks ago that went into a council, a set-up council court with a district judge. The judge walked out because he knew he didn't have consent. Because once you separate yourself from your legal fiction in front of them, they no longer can deny that you are not the executor. You are not the beneficiary, the benefactor. You are the man. While ever you keep that hidden and don't pull out your birth certificate, you will always be trapped in their legal fiction, which is the United Kingdom Corporation. So if we're trapped in the United Kingdom Corporation, how do we get out? By saying we do not consent. Every prime minister, every previous prime minister has said on live national TV, what have they said? We police and rule by consent. Well, I don't feel very much like consenting. Do you, Richard?
Not at all.
So if we remove our consent, there's a thing going around at the minute, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. to vote Keir Starmer out. It's already at 200 and I think it was 58,000 signatures on the legislation act, which, it has to get over 100,000. It was 250,000 a week or so ago. And I think that people need to sign this, and we need to send a very clear message to the persons that are working from our delegated powers that you will no longer rule the roost. We will no longer give our opinion and you just walk off and just ignore us. You are in place because we allow you to be in place. We have the right to remove you, that person, from your entrusted position to work for the benefit of the people. But again, they've chucked in legislation after legislation after legislation. Public vote of no confidence in Keir Starmer. I mean, that's an early one. I think it was over 200,000 when I last saw it.
Yeah, there seem to be a number. This is one that has come up.
There's loads of them, but we need to come together. We need to literally say enough. We've had enough of the boats coming in. We've had enough of immigration. We've had enough of the running and the mockery of everything. They've destroyed our identity. They've destroyed what Great Britain stood for. And this is where we come to the actual facts within the law by trying to claim that the council tax is a lawful instrument. It's not. It's illegal. The liability orders are all illegal. Now, we've just clearly shown that to your audience with the information from the Ministry of Justice, from the courts themselves, from their illegal stamp, and the fact that no warrant is signed. Therefore, if no warrant is signed, what does that make it?
Null and void.
Correct. So if we pull up the one where we've got it for the police-led prosecution, this one. Now, this came from Wellingborough Magistrates Court. Now, in law, there's such a thing as a void order, which we, the people, can issue against the court, the proceedings, and we send it to the Royal Courts of Justice. Once it's signed for, it is automatically null and void and nothing more to do. Now, the police are ignoring them. That will cost them massively because we're going to be putting all the police officers on notice now that they turned up without the proper identifier. They will either be arrested and then charged with. You lock anybody up, you cannot do it. So this is ridiculous. So now this is a speeding offence. Now, as you are fully aware, under the Constitution, we have the right to travel freely without let or hindrance. That is what it says in the Constitution. We also have the right not to be judged, fined, forfeited without due process of law. Now, I don't see any due process in this when a corporation police federation brings the man to court for lawfully travelling in his private conveyance. Now, they call it a vehicle. It is the modern day horse and cart. What is the motor? What is the conveyance powered by? Horsepower.
Yes.
Does it have a cart at the back? Does it pull a cart? Where do you sit? Where do you put your goods and wares in your family? In the back of the conveyance, which is the cart. So it's a modern day cart. That is all it is. If we look at it in the proper lawful term. Now, what I strongly suggest we do is everybody look up the Metric Martyrs Act. 5 top judges, 3 Supreme Court judges ruled that the Transport Act, and that's what all these are running on, are now in direct indirect, how do I phrase this? Indirect breach of the constitution of law. Because under the Metric Martyrs Act, law and case law, right? That's the one. It clearly states by Scott Bingham and another judge, famous judge, apologies, and I apologise to his family, I've forgotten his name, clearly state that the Road Traffic Acts cannot be used because they're in direct conflict with the constitution of law. So it's there. So if the Road Traffic Acts are in basically, and let's not forget the constitution of law is the highest law in the land, then no Road Traffic Act is legal or lawful because it can't be enforced. And here's proof of this. If we put that thing back up, Richard, from the Wellingborough Court, I would really appreciate that. Sorry, but I'm sorry to keep diving you about, Richard. My apologies.
No, I've got to go and find it again. Where is it?
And this clearly states they can't void a clear void order in law because the court did not issue the warrant. It was led by a police-led prosecution court. As previously explained, there is no power for this court to make the proceedings you faced on the 23rd of February as void, because we then issued a void order to the court and said, there you go, this is a lawful void order because of failing in due process of law. Now, there's nothing more failing in due process of law to go to a pseudo court where there is no claimant, there is no jury, and the judge works as a corporation in connivance with the police and the courts to make money. And it states it there. The proceedings heard in the police-led prosecution court. Now, I don't know, because I'm sure there's a very clear law and doctrine in law, the Crown cannot be the injured party. The government can never be the injured party. So if the council are bringing you to court, the police are bringing you to court, what are they?
That's a very good question.
So the police are now producing their own courts. The council are out producing their own courts in fraud and deception, in the criminal act of uttering. Now, I can send you certain things regarding the police force if you wish, just to let's get all this out there. I can even send you the English and Welsh police force trading on Companies House and all their shareholders. Every police station, every police county, and every police station is registered to Duns and Bradstreet's, the foreign corporation. Every county police force, West Yorkshire, Northampton, London, all across the country, are all satellite corporations of the English and Welsh Police Force, which trades as Pitcom 233 Limited. So, if we've now got a police force that's incorporated, and I know people out there will be going, no, not aware. So, Richard, I've just sent you the shareholders of the police force.
Let's just bring this up on the screen here. Bear with me.
I'm also going to do is send you the other bit, because I've sent it the wrong way around. My apologies to your audience. So there's another one there.
Okay, so let's, not quite sure how this is going to display.
I'm sure we'll figure it out, and I'm sure your viewers will be glued to their seats with anticipation.
So this is a screenshot of Company's House. We don't need that bit, I don't think.
No, just roll it up. Now, this is now the English and Wales Police Force trade as Pitcom 233 Limited. There's their company number. There's their shares. These are their shareholders. Now, how is that not a conflict of interest?
My goodness, there's hundreds of them.
There's 89. There's 129 shares held by 89 corporations or individuals. And if you look at some of them, and look from the number 11, because that's the best way of doing it, and have a guess who own and who is trading on that if you look at number 11. Not number 1, number 11, mate.
Oh, shareholding 11? I thought that was it.
Yeah, no, shareholding 11. You're a little bit slower, mate. Let's see it.
Yeah, here we go.
No, that's 1. There you go, 11. The Police Federation Trustees. So the Police Federation Trustees are shareholders of themselves. Now let's look how much they made. Oh, there it is, Company's House. Now, this is all public information. And it tells you how much they made. So if the money's not going back into the pot for the taxpayer, where's it going? So all our fines, forfeitures and stuff that they're doing illegally, it's going to shareholders. If you look on there, I couldn't make my mind up whether it was 129 million they made or 129 billion.
I'm just trying to find where it is.
You have to go onto Company's House and go on there.
Oh, I see.
You can't find it on that bit, Richard.
Right.
Sorry.
That's all right. But people can do that.
Listen,
they can do the.
Stop. Look, the only thing I'm going to say to everybody on this: please stop being lazy. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Don't take the screen's word for it. Find it. Know who you're dealing with. So if every police now authority is a satellite corporation of that corporation, so we've now got the police incorporated, we've got the judges incorporated, we've got the courts incorporated, we've got the councils incorporated, we've got the Minister of Justice incorporated, Parliament incorporated, every minister incorporated, every councillor incorporated. Is this not a conflict of interest? Who are they working for? Because they can't be working for the people.
No.
Under no illusions can they be working for the people. And the council tax proves that, because it cannot be enforced. It cannot be taken from your benefits, from your wages, from anything, because it's not a lawful document. So if we pull the other one up with the administration up, Richard, now if people are getting their benefits done and taken from, this is the law. Now it clearly states no monies can be taken from benefits. Social Security Administration Act 1992. Section 187. Now, I'm glad we've gone on to this one, because the one thing I want people to realise is there's a little doctrine in law that states, and it's laughingly known as the clean hands maxim, because people must stand in honour when you go into a court of law. Now, and this is basically what it means. So if we now go into this other bit at the bottom, and here's the beauty of this. This is the Local Governments Act 1888. Now, we've mentioned briefly earlier the Municipal Incorporations Act of 1835 that was repealed in 1882. 6 years later, this was put up for our defence against any incorporated government branch or body. Because it's very clear here. And they use this to stop paying the benefits. So we've now got to look at this word for word. And it's very, very clear. So the council not only now know that the liability orders cannot be enforced, they can't send jackbooted thugs round with unsigned warrants or orders, liability orders, because that's all it is. It's another name for a warrant, to seize anything. But they do. But would it surprise you, Richard, and your thousands and thousands of guests and viewers and subscribers, to literally realise that in actual fact, we don't owe the council anything? Because since they've become incorporated, all the duties and liabilities of the inhabitants, now, again, an old English word, the inhabitants, because what are we?
Well, we inhabit the town that we live in.
Yeah, and we are the inhabitants, therefore.
Yeah.
Of the county shall become and be duties and liabilities of the council of such county. So
here it is.
Incorporation of a county council. So once the council becomes incorporated, it now takes on all the duties and liabilities of the inhabitants of that council, that county council, or the council that becomes incorporated. So as we've just demonstrated earlier, all 357 councils are now incorporated.
So they'd be paying our council, or effectively, we shouldn't be paying it. They should be paying for all the things that the council are supposed to provide.
Correct, because they're incorporated. Yeah. So now we go into the better things. So this is where we must sort of draw our line. Because if you're not going to play by the rules of law, by the rules of what we know to be true, which is the Constitution, and it clearly states that we are the inhabitants, we are the people of the realm of England and Great Britain and Isles. So it now declares there that not only is the council tax the responsibility of the council, so we've then got to ask ourselves, well, hang on a minute. They knowingly took us to court, demanded money with menace, threatened us, beat us, sent jackbobs round to steal our assets, and they're still doing it to this day, in full knowledge that they are duty-bound, legislative-bound, that all our duties and liabilities are now theirs. So that's not only the council tax. What other duties and liabilities do you have, Richard? Do you have a mortgage? And don't say no. Just say yes, please.
I do have a mortgage.
Wonderful. How would you like that to be paid off?
In cash immediately by somebody else.
Now you've just said the magic word. By somebody else. So let's think about it logically. Duty and liability, that's your mortgage.
There you go.
So now you write to your mortgage provider, advising them that they have now 90 days to issue a final bill to your mortgage and send back all the mortgage deeds. And they must seek full immediate payment from the Section 151 officer within the council. Now you say,
could I do that for my utility bills?
Everything. It's already paid. Transco have already admitted it 4 years ago. all the gas, electric, water bills are paid 5 years in advance. And they admitted it. There's YouTube videos on it. It's for you, it's for the people to get awakened and understand what is really going off. It's not for me to dictate or tell anybody an untruth. It's there in YouTube's, the videos on it where they've rang Transco and said, can I pay you my gas bill? Because I would rather pay you directly than the broker who claim they supply the gas. And they don't. They're brokers. That is all they are. So Transco run the system. Transco run the gas and how much we need. And yet, if our bills are paid 5 years in advance, how do we get inflation? How does the price go up and down? It can't, because we've already paid for it.
I was just looking if I could quickly bring something up, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, as I say, I think it'll take a bit of digging, Richard, because they've buried and they are burying everything that we need to help to stop this nonsense. Just write to your council, send them this legislation and say, right, under your own legislation, you are now duty bound, liable for all my duties and liabilities. Therefore, here they are. You will now send me a gyro check for £4,000 a month so that I may settle my duties and liabilities until I registered them back to you, and you will pay them in full as to your legislation. You have now become incorporated, which is a subversion of the Constitution. You are now in the criminal act of uttering, deception, connivance with others, all aiding and abetting into what they're up to. So we've now got a system that doesn't work for us anymore. It works for its shareholders. Now, I've got a little problem with a police force. And there's a video going around of me getting tasered 3 times. Now, I'm the only one stood there lawfully. Right? And I giggled at them when they tasered me. It gives you quite a little buzz, to be fair. And it's quite a thing to see. But it went around the internet. I was forwarded. It wasn't my video because I want to sue the police for attempted murder, human rights violations, terrorism violations, and trafficking, human trafficking, slavery violations. Because I was taken and detained for 22 hours. I was smashed in the back by the police and pepper sprayed in the mouth, where I spent 9 hours throwing up in a police cell. I was then tasered 3 times, all for being in the lawful position and being under. And I called the police to advise them that the bailiff was there to enforce an illegal warrant under the law. And who would you imagine that is the major shareholder for most police forces? The bailiffs. And I'll tell you how they do it. Most police forces have now 5 shares. A certain police force that shall be renamed nameless at the minute. But if anybody wants to look it up, look up Raid-Control Trust. It works for IBM International, or did do, IBM International. It worked for Ladbrokes, Thomas Cook, Veritas the bailiffs, and Veritas the chief executive. So now the bailiffs have 2 shares in that corporation, and they are the lead shareholders. So they now own above 25% of that corporation and become a PSC, which is a person of significant control. Now, this is the lunacy of how our forces are working. So this is why you've done, and a lot of other people have done, massive videos And I'm going to, if it's all right with you, I'll give a big shout out to Bannerman, who does a hell of a lot of good on repossessions and things. And the police assist the bailiffs. This is why they get caught out. Yeah, we're here to assist the bailiffs. Well, hang on a minute. The law says you can't. The law says if the bailiff does X, Y, Z, you have to arrest the bailiff. So why are you going in, kicking doors off, smashing windows out, and dragging people out of their homes for the benefit of the bank? Oh, that's right, because you work for the bailiffs.
You have given us such inside information that is there for anybody to look at.
It's not my information. It's just, if you want to look, it's there.
Absolutely.
It's all public information, all of it. But the one thing I recommend everybody do is send all your notices back to the council, send your liability notices, everything, and say, no, thank you. We no longer consent. Go see your councillors and issue a no consent notice. We remove you by the Constitution. We now, until you can prove that you are voted incorrectly and the vote was lawful, we don't want you. This is what Keir Starmer's having to face at the minute. This is the backlash of his nonsense.
And it had to come. I mean, there's only so far you can push people. People rose up in 1381 in the Peasants' Revolt. They got violent. We don't need to be violent. We can use the pen, as it's mightier than the sword, and get rid of this.
That's only if they listen. They may look. I'm not going to try and say, yeah, the pen is mightier than the sword. But yes, I'm hopeful, and I'm really hopeful that the pen is mightier than the sword. Because what I would hate to see is what we've seen in our history before, which is revolution after revolution. I mean, look what it says about the 1688 Bill of Rights. After the glorious revolution. Now, I wasn't aware that we had a massive revolution in 1688. Again, what happened in 1215? We had another revolution to make the king take the knee to the people because we protected him. Now, it was his turn to protect us. The law's very clear under the Constitution. The king is duty-bound to protect the Constitution of law. He can literally dissolve Parliament like that. And I mean like that.
Like that.
Like that. Parliament is dissolved.
Not like that.
Not like that. Like that. Right? Tommy Cooper loved him. But, like I said, that's the king's duty under the Constitution of law. So we've got to ask ourselves, why is it not happening? Why are we going down all this administrative nonsense? I've just give you, and I've give your people, I think, a nice roundabout of everything and how everything fits with everything else. And if you look deep enough, you will find your police station is registered as a company to Companies House. So what does that make the police? Nothing more than a private corporation. Because people need to look up at just the last one, Richard, and I know I'm pushing you for time, but people need to look up the Clearfield Doctrine.
Oh, yes.
The Clearfield Doctrine clearly states it pulls back the veil and any protection. Because once a government becomes incorporated, it loses all sovereignty. Therefore, they no longer have the letters of patronage. They no longer have the seal of the people.
And there it is.
And why is that so important? Because it was used in 2008, 2014 into English law. And therefore became a part of English law. It also concludes that they're all registered to the United States. So if they're all registered to the United States, that brings this into our laws. And he's very clear that no corporation can ever contract with a man, and any government or branch of that government becomes incorporated removes the veil of any protection that offers. Basically, that means that it sinks to the standard level of any corporation. Now, if we went into a famous burger flipper and the guy behind there flipping his burgers said, right, I'm placing you under arrest, what would you tell him to do?
Bog off.
Correct. Right? If we went into anywhere, into any corporation, and they went, right, you're now going to pay us, we're fining you this, bog off. Right? So why do these people believe that they have any authority just because they have a sticker across the chest? Police.
They don't. They don't. Listen, I'm going to have to end it there because I don't want this to go on too long. Over an hour is sort of like my end point. But you have given us such information, such encouragement for people to, as you said earlier, to get off their backsides and go and hunt out the information for themselves, be absolutely clear that it's genuine, and then use whatever methods of communication they wish to tell these people that they are no longer consenting to the nonsense that these people want to push upon us, and get the councils to pay all their bills, which was very nice. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. I hope you enjoyed it.
We certainly have, and be interesting to look at the feedback from the wonderful viewers as they take on board all that you've said. Thank you so much for coming on, and we may find that down the line we have to dive down another rabbit
hole.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole of torture.
So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. What did you make of that? Some of that you may have known. Some of it may be a complete revelation. It may have just given you that extra bit of hope that once armed with the information, we can fight back and we can do it effectively. Thank you so much to Blue, my guest. Until next time, I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.